Hello, welcome to Dan's Model Works, and today we're going to be starting a new project. And as you can see, it's the Boeing Chinook. It's by Matchbox. This project is probably better to be better labeled a continuation, because I have already started this kit, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an explanation. I think most model builders and most hobbyists eventually accumulate a number of projects that they've started but never finished. And I mean, most model builders have a stash of kits that they've purchased but haven't started yet, and you accumulate those over time. But I think you also accumulate over time kits that you've started but don't finish. And I think there's a couple reasons for this. The first reason is you get busy. You start working on a kit, you get 20, 30, 40% of the way through it. Then you get busy with work, overtime, or the kids get involved in an activity. You got to take them after supper every day for a while. And next thing you know, a month or two has gone by and you haven't sat down at your hobby bench. Maybe you got some home renovations or something like that. At any rate, the project that you're all enthusiastic about just sits there collecting dust. And then when you finally do have time to go back to your hobby bench, something else has caught your eye, some other shiny project, and you're like, oh, I want to do this now. What you were working on gets shoved aside. And I think the other major thing that happens is you encounter a problem while building something. Major parts don't fit, or you lose a part. George the carpet-eating monster swallows up one of the engine nacelles or something like that. Or you want to achieve a certain finish, and lo and behold, you can't figure out how you're going to do it. So you get discouraged, you set it aside, and you lose interest. And I'm sure there's probably other reasons that people stop working on stuff. But I know I look at the pile of things that I've started and haven't finished, and it's almost like they're taunting me. Loser, loser, you never finished us. So what I'm trying to do is, between new builds, things that are coming out of my stash, I'm trying to work on the pile of things that I never got around to finishing. So one of those is the Matchbox Chinook, which is right here. Now, I'll give you a look at the box, and of course, right here, as per Matchbox, molded in 3 colors, and they got the multicolor number there to let you know. I don't know who would ever actually put it together like this, just without painting anything, having the engine nacelles a different color than the rest of the helicopter. On the other side here, we've got their skill system and, important legal notices and things. If we look at the back of the box, we see the 3 paint schemes. This one with the oversized Union Jacks, I believe, if we look on here, was for a task force to Lebanon in 1984. This one is from the Falkland Islands in 1982. And this one is an American version. So I haven't decided which version I'm doing. It probably won't be this one. I don't care for the giant Union Jack on the engine pylon. So why don't we take a look at it and see how far I've managed to get. We have the fuselage sides separated from their sprue, so I must have been working on them. Very minimal detail on the inside here. And if we look at this side, you can see there's a piece of styrene that's been added in here. And if memory serves, put these together. My thinking was, as you're looking up the ramp, you'd be able to see this recess, which on the real helicopter contains the drive shaft. You'd see that recess, and I think that piece of styrene was added in there to cover that over. Let's see if we can get the light on it a little bit better. So that had already been added in. The interior, I had painted the floor aluminum and the sides flat neutral gray. Here is the bulkhead. I'm pretty sure that door is molded in. Now, what is strange is inside the cockpit, there was no sign of a door whatsoever. Now, I know this leans forward, So I think this bit of silver framing you see here, I added that. Thinking that quite possibly the door was shorter and they ducked in. I don't know what I was thinking there. You know, maybe I'll do some research and find out whether or not the door was full height or not. But I do know that there's a door going from the cockpit into the main body of a Chinook. I don't know why they didn't mold that going through. So that's basically the work I've already done on it. So we'll open up the box and take a look at the sprues. Here's the decal sheet. There's the US markings and the British markings here on the bottom. The decals look to be pretty good. As you can see, I've already used one that I believe is the instrument panel. We'll know in a second. As I mentioned earlier, one of Matchbox's trademarks when they were in the model business was molding the parts in 2 or 3 different colors. And if you ever have a kit, especially by Revell, that has these strange shaped sprues that are kind of rectangular like this, that's how you know that it at one time was a Matchbox kit. So this is the outside of the ramp. This looks like one of the emergency windows that pop out. Looks like it could be the top of the cockpit, I'm not sure. The green sprue here, you can see the engine air intakes. This is one of the engine nacelles, the other side of the nacelle. We have the landing gear wheels, and it looks like a lot of the interior parts. The detail is pretty good. Nothing really to be upset about. This is the inside of the ramp. Here's the black sprue. This is the underside of the helicopter. And we have the rotor blades. And it looks like the rotor blades do have a slight droop to them, which is good. We have the rotor head details here. Moving on to the clear sprue. The entire nose is all one piece, so it's going to have to be masked. Although, it looks like there's a piece that fits. I don't know if you can see that. Looks like there's a piece that goes on here, because that would be a solid piece. And then we have all the portholes here. This is one of the engine nacelles that I had already assembled. Obviously, I haven't filled it or anything like that. This is one of the engine exhausts. Almost looks like a rocket exhaust. And somewhere, here we go. This is the instrument panel, and you can see it has a decal applied to it. So that's pretty much as far as I got. And I think I stopped working on it mostly because I got busy doing other things. We'll look at the instructions next. Now here we have the instructions for the Chinook. They're set up a little unusually in that this sheet here has got all of the decal placements for the various schemes. And here's the scheme that involves the camouflage. And this is our assembly instructions, starting with the cockpit and that rear bulkhead that doesn't seem to have a door, that I think should have one. And there's our landing gear assembly. And then looking at the other side of it, got a lot of the bits and pieces and baubles. For the outside, this looks like the radio antenna that goes down the side. So there we go. There's the instructions how to put the latest project together. Now, before we start on the Chinook, I think we better clean up a little bit of the hobby bench, at least scrape off a couple layers of debris before we start. There, now it's only the 7th most messy workbench on the planet. Now we can start. Alright, so it looks like we're going to be starting with a little bit of destruction. After having done a little bit of research on the Infernal Net, checking out cockpit pictures of Chinooks, and oddly enough, most of them are taken from right there, looking forward. But there are enough pictures that are taken back here, looking forward, giving a full height view all the way through to the cockpit. Makes it clear that there is a full height doorway going all the way through to the cockpit. So this is incorrect, having this little shorty door, which when I put it in there, I figured probably wasn't correct. And I'm not even sure if there is a door so much as there's a doorway. I don't know if there's a door that can be closed or whatever, but no matter what, there needs to be a hallway here. So I'm going to have to get this bulkhead off, and then I'm going to have to cut that out. Success! We have destruction. Now that I've got this bulkhead off, I can start doing the modifications to fix it. And I think I'm going to take this whole door out here and leave it open, because I've yet to see a picture taken from the cargo area through to the cockpit in which there's a door closed. I think even if there is a door in the doorway, 99% of the time it's open. Alright, this is a little bit of a complication. As you can see, I followed the doorway that the Matchbox molded in here. That doorway doesn't correspond to the hallway. It's offset. And, you know, years ago when I put this door frame on here, I put it in the middle. It doesn't line up with that either. So, guess I should have checked a little more carefully. Not the end of the world, but means that I'm going to have to tidy this up and put a new door frame on this surface here. Okay, I've carved off the door frame I glued on there. The next step is going to be, I'm going to do my cutting from the hallway so that it'll line it. I'm not worried about trying to line up with it. And then I'll putty this and restore the door frame itself at a later step. Alright, there's the doorway carved all the way through. And I've puttied the strip that was damaged when I cut through the backside. Now what I'm going to do is I'll frame this up just to make it look a little bit neater. And there's the bulkhead mounted on the back, so you can see how that's going to look. Alright, we're reversing some of the destruction here, reinstalling the seats, and I'm going to get to work on putting all the other cockpit stuff in. Okay, the controls have been put in place. Still haven't been painted yet. I did sand down the tops of the control columns because they looked decidedly unpleasant to use. Now I'm going to get some silver and some black and get these things painted up. In addition to touching up the front and the rear bulkheads, I'm also going to paint the short hallway in between because it looks a little like a black hole there. So that'll all be painted gray as well as the front and back. Alright, I've glued all the various controls and control panels in place now, and this bulkhead has been glued in place, so we've made some progress compared to what the model was. When I dumped it out of the box, the instrument panel was kind of tough to get in place though, mainly because there's just a few too many parts trying to live in this space here. Get that focused in a bit better. But at any rate, at least when we look in the ramp, we're going to be able to see what you generally see, which is the passageway into the cockpit. Alright, I've got these clothespins on the fuselage, just so we can make some decisions and get some idea of basic fit. And I think everything is going to fit together alright, although I could be proven wrong later. One of the things that I'm debating is whether I'm going to add any detail to kind of the ass end of this. Because, of course, when the ramp is open, you can see an awful lot. So mainly, it's going to be this area here and there, and there. That's what I'm going to be determining whether I'm going to add any detail to. And if you look inside, you can see the white strip that I added before to camouflage the fact that the drive shaft bump here is hollow on the inside. So I'm going to have to take a quick look at some photos off the internet and determine what I want to put in there to busy things up a bit. Just as a point of interest, if we look inside this fuselage half, I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up, Matchbox International Limited, 1987. So that's when the tooling for this kit was basically cut. That's when the mold was made. And I'm pretty sure that this particular release dates all the way back to then. Well, curse the internet. I'm beginning to realize, or perhaps remember, just exactly what sidelined this kit so many years ago. And I think it's because anything with a big ramp, I like to have that ramp open, just so you can, see the inside of it and get some idea of what you could put inside of it. As you can see by the fact I got my tablet there, I've already downloaded a fair number of Chinook ramp pictures, and it's not so much the ramp as it's this area here and this area here. I mean, not only is the back of the Matchbox Chinook pretty much devoid of any detail, what little there is there's no resemblance to what should be at the back end of a Chinook. So I'm going to have to do some thinking. I want to put in a little bit of detail, just enough so that it resembles what should be there. I'm certainly not going to be aiming to put every pipe and every wire. Perhaps I'll aim for the structure on the sides and the structures that I can easily drill the holes in. There should be some large ribs on the sides that should have holes. Not sure if I'm going to go to the extent of putting all the holes in. I suppose the main thing is I got to figure out just exactly how many ribs need to go in and where. I don't know, maybe it'll just seal it up. Gonna have to think on that. How complicated do I want this to be? Well, I've started by amputating these little triangular fillets right here. Main reason I got rid of those is the detail is going to have to be built in the fuselage sides. However, the landing gear well, I don't really want to mess with those because that's integral to the floor. Any detail I do, I want to build onto the fuselage sides and basically have this nest up against it. So that was my first step, is get rid of these. Okay, I'm continuing to work on the detailing here on the back. As you can see, I've added this plastic here. I'm going to add another piece on that side. And basically, even though the external shape of the ramp is quite irregular, the opening is quite a smooth, regular shape. So by introducing this on both sides, I should be able to take my detailing off of that. Now, the Matchbox mold maker thoughtfully included these giant mounting pads to put the engines in. But the result is you've got these giant, Tylenol shaped things on the inside of the fuselage. So I thought it might be a little easier if I ground them down using my Dremel and sanded them out. Now, I didn't go all the way through, but as you can see, I got pretty close. But hopefully that'll make it easier to build the rib zip in this area. Continuing to fumble along with this detailing of the hind end of the Chinook, I've now added a filler panel in here, and that helps to mask the open area that's on top of the actual landing gear bay. Put it in both sides, and then that way the ribs that should come down and go almost all the way down to the floor, they've got something to actually sit on. I've created this template which sort of fits, and I'm going to use it to create the blanks that I'm going to use to turn into the ribs that are going to fit along the back side of the Chinook here. This may be one of the most annoying parts I've ever made. and I think I need to do 4 per side. We'll see how long my patience holds up here. Alright, that's the first rib installed. Like I said, we'll see how long my patience holds out here. And we've got another beam in place. Sorry for the shake, but I just want to get a shot here to see if we're on the right path. Not looking too bad. Okay, at the risk of sounding like the Count, that's 2 ribs down. The key to this seems to be make a rib, put it in place, then go off and do something else. I think if you tried to do too many of these things at once, you'd just drive yourself crazy. I've got another full-size rib like this to go in right here. And then I think there's going to be a couple of minor ribs back here and a lower profile rib right here. And then I'll start putting in some other bits of structural goodness in there. The fuselage halves are close pegged together, which helps line everything up. All of the vertical ribs have been fabricated and installed. It was not quite as much work as I thought it was going to be. I think all told it was probably maybe 3 hours of work to fabricate those and put them in. They are not perfect. Rivet counters, you can hold your tongues. I think the important thing is basically have the ribs in place, and we've got something that is a lot closer to what is in the back of a real Chinook. Just about does it for part 1 of the Chinook build. I think this segment's gone on way too long. For part 2 of our Chinook build, hopefully we'll get the interior finished, fuselage buttoned up, and we can get working on all the exterior bits. So until next time, keep modeling, and thanks for watching Dan's Model Works.